Good morning, everyone. One second, one second. Half ಮಾಡಿ. Okay, good morning, everyone. So today I'm going to take you through literature. Okay, this is something that the topics is given by the VTU, and we that's the reason why you are having this today. Okay, now one second, one second. There is some problem today. Just a minute. Hello. Sorry for the small issue that we had. So we are going to start the session on literature. Okay. Now, what does this slide tell you? What does slide tell you? Literature is the immortality of speech. So, what does it mean? See, it means orally we might speak a lot. Okay, we might say so many things, but then when it takes the form of literature, it becomes immortal. What do you mean by immortal? It takes the form of it will be there forever. So now, uh, one second. Okay. Uh, Look at this quote over here. Without literature, life is hell. What does that mean? It doesn't mean, see, these are all uh, sayings. They don't take the literal meaning, okay? We take it in the form of the secondary meaning, in the sense that your life doesn't become hell without literature. What it means is, without literature, you will be left with nothing interesting in life. And literature opens the doors to a lot many things which you weren't even aware of in the first place. Now, can you tell me who this picture is of? It is Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. Okay, he was the poet laureate of India, and he won the first Nobel laureate in literature in 1933. Can anybody tell me for which book of his did he win this Nobel Prize? Anybody? Anyone? You can raise your hands if you know the answer. Anyone? Okay, for his Gitanjali, and look what he says. He says, oneness amongst men. What do you mean by oneness amongst men? It means all men are born equal. Okay, the advancement of unity in diversity, and that is our tag, isn't it? Tagline of India: diversity in unity in diversity. This has been, he says, this has been the core religion of India. We are known for our thought process of, or we are known for unity in diversity. Next, who is this person? He is Rashtrakavi Kuvempu, okay, Dr. K.V. Puttappa Kuvempu. He was among the first Kannada writers to be decorated with the Jnanapita Award. And you need to read some of the books that these great personalities have written, and you'll be left, wondering about, like, is this what the world is all about? It is an experience in itself. Literature is an experience in itself, and no two people experience it in the same manner. Now, what is literature? What is literature? It is broadly any collection of written work, okay? But usually it is narrowly it is used in the sense of writings, okay? In any art form, it can be in the form of prose, fiction, drama, poetry, okay? And in recent centuries, the definition of literature has expanded to oral literature also. And what do you mean by oral literature? See, India was known for its oral literature. To this day, we have, for example, Yakshagana and Bayalata. That's an example for oral literature for you. It's a form of drama, and I'm sure you know what that is. And if you go to Kerala, you have Kathakali and Mohiniyattam. These are all forms of oral literature. And the word literature comes from the Latin word, which means learning, writing, and grammar. See, the word is not pronounced as literature. Okay, I have heard many people pronounce it as literature. What are you studying? I'm doing my MA in literature. It is not literature, it's literature. Okay, you become, I see it as, the pronunciation as you become richer and richer by reading literature. Okay, which also means a Latin word, litera, that's the root word of the word literature, which means letter, that is a body of literary productions, which can be either oral, written, or visual. What do you mean by visual? Visual can be movies, teleserials, those are visual literary productions, okay, which contain, why do you call it as literature? Because they contain imaginative language which realistically portrays. See, the language might be imaginative and it could be fiction, but then it does a very important aspect of realistically portraying. What do you mean by portraying? Picturing thoughts, emotions, and experiences of human condition. Now, why is it that we need to look into literature? Why literature? Why has the VTU why has the VTU made this as a topic for your induction? Why? Because it allows a person to go back in time, okay? To go back in time to learn about life on earth from the ones who walked before us. And we can gather a better understanding of culture, and we can thereby we can be in a better position to appreciate them. Not only that, we can also learn the way history is recorded, okay, in the form of manuscripts and through speech itself. So that is why we need to look into literature to understand the culture, to appreciate the differences, to appreciate the different nuances, okay, as well as the way history is recorded since time immemorial. Okay, what is the impact of literature in our life? What, how does it impact us? See, it has a major impact on the development of society. The reason is, and then it has shaped civilizations. It has changed political systems, and it has exposed injustice. For example, I'm sure all of you have heard about Hitler. That's the one example which I'm sure everyone has heard. And how do you know what he did, the atrocities that he committed? It was only through the books written about that time, wasn't it? Literature. That is how we realize the injustice that the Jews were exposed to. Okay, and then it also gives us a detailed review of human experiences, allowing us to connect on the basic levels of desire and emotion. Okay, so that is the literature has a great, it might have a profound impact on people. That is, if you really go into it with 100% of yourself. For example, haven't you heard about Ramayana? Haven't you heard about the way Ramayana has impacted number of people? It has that impact. Okay, I can give you so many anecdotes. I mean, what are anecdotes? Real life examples. But I don't, I mean, I have some very interesting slides for you later on. And I have some small quiz also. Okay, I would like to test how much you have learned or how much you have read. I mean, simple ones, nothing to be afraid of. And so that's why instead of giving some real time examples, I'm going forward. Okay, so literature can have a very profound effect on people. Now, what's the power of literature? What's its power? See, everything, whatever happens in a society, it can be recorded and it can be learned through a piece of literature. It can be in the form of a poetry, it can be prose, it provides an insight. What do you mean by insight? In-depth knowledge. Okay, insight is an in-depth knowledge. It provides insight. It can be in the form of knowledge or wisdom, and also it creates and it evokes an emotions in people who partakes it. What do you mean by partaking someone? Who partaking something, to partake is to eat. And here it means you can you eat literature? Can you eat books? Can you eat poetry? Can you eat drama? Here it means reading and being so very engrossed in whatever that you are reading. That is what it means, and it evokes a lot of emotions in you when you partake it entirely. And life is manifested in the form of literature. See the slide, I mean the picture that I have here is about Malgudi days. It was a book written by R.K. Narayan. He was one of the emerging English poets in India, Indian poets who started writing in English. And it has been serialized into, it's a teleserial. And it was a runaway hit. It was a super duper hit, if I want to use your terminology. You use the word, instead of runaway success, you use the word super duper, isn't it? So it was a runaway success. And I guess I think the DD is telecasting it again, Malgudi days. Now, what can literature teach us? What can it teach us? What is it really worth our while learning literature? Does it help us in any way? Of course it does. See, it helps you to analyze. When you analyze literature, it teaches you the cause and effect and of applying critical thinking skills. And without realizing it, we start examining the characters psychologically or sociologically. Psychologically, I am sure all of you know the meaning of, what does it mean? The mindset. And what do you mean by sociological? They are probably the social milieu that they come from, okay, their culture, their background, those things. And when that happens, we can identify, when we start analyzing literature, we can identify the characters' motivations for what they do, why they do it, and what is the reason that they are doing it. And what is the picture here? It's about Panchatantra. Has any of you read Panchatantra? And there is a story behind Panchatantra. Do you want me to tell you that in short? Would you like me to tell you the story about how Panchatantra originated in the first place? Okay, this is a small story. There was a king in times bygone, and he had sons. He had four sons. I think three or four. I'm not sure. Four. For the time being, let us assume it's four. And see, those days where when the children went to Gurukula, be a common man or a prince, a royal person, or whatever it is, they used to go to Gurukula, okay, Gurukula system. They used to go to a guru's place, and there they used to study. They used to have their education. Now, this king had a problem with his children. They were never willing to learn anything. He tried so many different renowned scholars, but still it wasn't, the children never learned anything. So then the king was at its wits' ends. He wanted his children to learn because they would be the future kings of his kingdom, isn't it? They had to rule the kingdom properly. And then a guru came. He said he will teach the children. And then he took the children to his Gurukula and he taught them whatever has to be taught in the forms of stories. Okay, in the forms of stories. And children love to listen to stories, don't we? Love to listen to stories. And that is how Panchatantra originated. The five different sets, the five different ways of learning things, tantras. Okay, that is how we taught them about the knowledge of war, economics, political science. Everything was taught to them through Panchatantra, and it is today. It is they have very abridged versions of it. You can read it in Tinkle or Amar Chitrakatha. It's wonderful. It's wonderful, and it ends with moral, and it tells you what you need to do in certain situations. So that is what literature teaches us. Now, what is the power of literature, or what does it do? What are the functions of literature? Now, literature helps people to preserve entire culture. Entire cultures, different cultures can be preserved in literature, and it also creates an imprint of the way people lived some 100 years ago, 200 years ago, and so on. Okay, it also teaches us many things about the human experience. For example, we are living in the 21st century. We don't know how people lived in, say, 1900 or 1500. So you go to literature to learn how people lived in those times. Okay, that gives you an idea, and it usually portrays the facets. What do you mean by the facets of life? See, life is not, it doesn't happen in it is not parallel. Life never runs in a parallel line. It has its ups and downs and curves. Okay, so literature portrays the different aspects of life that we see around, and that we wouldn't have dreamt of seeing if it wasn't for literature. For example, Little House series. Now, this is an American series. This is written by an American, Laura Ingalls Wilder, and this is a series of 9 to 10 books. And in that, she speaks about the pioneers of America and the difficulties they went through, and you get this in Kannada translation too. Hullugavlinalli Puttamane, Prayareyalli Puttamane, the Little House series, Little House in a Wood, and so on. It's wonderful. You should read to realize what difficulties the pioneers, the forefathers of America went through. You would be surprised. Then you have I have the next example that I've given here is Paniyam. Now, this is, how do I put it? This is a book which is worth its weight in gold because it has preserved the culture and the way people live just 100 years down the line. And this was written by M.K. Indira. It was also made into a blockbuster movie. This is about the Brahmin culture which was there 100 years ago, just 100 years down the line. Could you believe it? The girls were married at the age of 8 or 10. And in this case, the protagonist of the book, that is the heroine of the book, is Paniyam. That's a girl named by Paniyamma. And she is married at the age of 8. Her husband's died. Her husband is a young boy, probably 14, 15. He dies at the age of, and you should read the book, okay? Please read it. It takes you through the thought process of a child bride. The child did not know anything about marriage, and she was happy that she was given laddus to eat, nice things to wear, and so on. Please read. And the boy dies. The child, at the age of 9, she's a widow. And this was something which was very real, which happened to people. But after M.K. Indira wrote this burning issue, it was made into a movie by Prema Karant in 1980s, I believe. And that set up a series of, a series of discussions and so on. So you don't see that anymore. So it gives you an idea of how people live. Literature preserves cultures and it tells us how people lived some years earlier. Now, what do you mean by genres or genre? This is pronounced either as genres or genre in literature. What is a genre? See, a genre means a type. So there are different kinds of literature, isn't it? Literature is not monolithic. It's not just one thing. You have poetry, you have prose, you have drama, you have novels, you have children's literature, you have classics. Okay, you have something known as women's literature. You have musical plays, you have drama. So these are all the different genres of or genres in literature. Okay, these are the main types, the main genres. You have drama or play. It's also known as play. You have fables. What do you mean by fables? Fables are fairy tales. Okay, autobiography, autobiographical, autobiography is somebody's real life um, book. It's written on someone's real life. I mean, life. Biography is written by ourselves. If I write a book on myself, it is known as biography. If somebody else writes it for me, then it's known as autobiography. Autobiography, yeah, biography. Then poetry, you all know. Prose, yes. Science fiction. Now, science fiction is also a very interesting area. Now, there is something known as classics. At the end of the presentation, I'll give you the name of a few classics, not much, a few, which you can read in the abridged form. Abridged is the simplified form wherein children can read it easily. Okay, so these, what do you mean by classics? Classics are evergreen books, evergreen, evergreen, any age, since the time they were written. And can you see this little house in the big woods? This was written by Laura Ingalls Wilder, and it's about the American pioneering way of life, the forefathers of America. Okay, and the Wizard of, these are all fairy tales. Some of these are fairy tales, and the classics never go out of circulation. They are evergreen books. Okay, now we come to the quiz of Panchatantra. We have come to the quiz now. I have some nice pictures here. I want you to tell me the name of each picture is a different story. Okay, each picture is a different story, and probably you might have, most people must have read this, though might not be in the form of Panchatantra. You might have read it in the form of Amar Chitrakatha or in Tinkle. So can you tell me, can you name the first one? The monkey is riding on a crocodile. Can you tell me, has anybody read this story? Has anyone read this? The second one? This I'm sure you have in your, this is even, I think you might have it in your first standard or second. The second one, the fox and the grapes. Do you remember it now? Okay, raise your hands. Anyone, if anybody likes to answer, you can raise your hands. The first one is the monkey and the crocodile. The monkey is hard. The second is the grapes are sour, fox and the grapes. And the third one, can anyone tell me which this is? You can raise your hand so that I'll unmute you. It is about the rabbit and the lion, wherein the lion catches hold of the rabbit. It wants to eat it. So the rabbit is clever. It says it can show the tiger, the lion a mood, and it takes it to the well, and this is what happens. Okay, the lion jumps into the well and dies. And this is here. These stories imply that brain is mightier than brawn. What does it mean? That is, your intelligence gives you more mileage than your strength. And here, this is Damanaka or Karataka, the name of a jackal or fox. It finds the carcass of a dead elephant, okay? It can't eat the elephant because elephants have thick hides. The skin is very thick. So then the story is all about how it thinks of undoing and having its meaning. And this is, appearances can be deceptive. This is what it means. You know, the donkey is covered in the skin of a tiger, Okay, and that I'm sure you have read that story. And this is the speaking the turtle which spoke unnecessarily. So these are all, and there is no one. Have you read any of these stories or haven't you? Come on, if you just raise your thumbs, what will I know? At least if you raise your hand, I can unmute you and you can give the answer. Just thumbs up doesn't mean anything. You're enjoying, yes, but I would like to know whether you have really read any of them. See again, the the fox and the lion, and this is the blue jackal. Have you read that story, Blue Jackal? And this is the wily stork. This I'm sure many of you have read. The man and the Brahmin and the goat. Have you read it? Oh, you see, if you have read any of these, even one or two, trust me, you have learned something and you have enjoyed your life when you were a kid. Okay? If not, all I can say is you're missing a huge portion of your life, a huge chunk of what could have been. Next, you have Panchatantra. Next, I'm taking you through children's literature. Okay. Next, you have Jataka tales. Now, this was the story goes is that Bodhisattva or Buddha takes the form of different animals, and in each incarnation, he takes the form of an animal or two, and he helps the people or the animals of whichever forms he take in that particular life. So this is about Ruru the golden deer. This is again the monkey and the crocodile. This is white elephant, and this is uh, it's about friends helping you to come out of a difficult situation. And each and every of these stories, they have a moral. These are known as didactic. That means they have a moral vein in them. At the end of the story, the children see, and when you read it in the form of picture books, comics, see, look at this picture now. You might not know the story, but looking at the picture, you can understand something, isn't it? Can't you understand something? Now look here. The deer is tied up with it is ensnared in the net. What do you mean by ensnared? It's caught in the net, and it tries to escape, but it cannot. And then that is when its friend, a mouse, comes and chews through all the snare so that it escapes. And here, the white elephant, it's trying to help this woodcutter, but the woodcutter is scared just by looking at the elephant. Now imagine a scenario wherein you are in a wildlife sanctuary. An elephant comes towards you. The natural instinct is for us to run away. Next, you have Aesop's fables. Have you heard about Aesop's fables? I'm sure you have heard. And this was a nursery rhyme. This picture, the crow and the pot. Can someone tell me the name now? The thirsty crow. Haven't you had? I'm sure my kids had when they were in the first standard. The thirsty crow. Once a crow was very thirsty. I'm sure everyone knows that song, that nursery story. And this is about the ant and the grasshopper. The ant and the grasshopper. The story of Aesop was a person from Greece, and these are all famous Aesop fables. And this is the goose which laid the golden egg. It has come in many versions, probably Indianized versions also, wherein a duck laid a golden egg and so on. And this is the hare and the tortoise, evergreen story, evergreen. The running race between the hare, that is the rabbit, and the tortoise, hare and the tortoise. And this is about who is more strong, whether the sun or the wind. Okay, and this is wherein the according this in this story of the ant and the grasshopper. Look here, something is written. Stop and paint a picture with me, said grasshopper. I can't, said ant. I must get ready for winter today. There is no time to paint, and on he went. When the ant was working very hard, the grasshopper was painting pictures, was playing music, and was enjoying. And the ant was working hard to store up food for winter. And when the winter comes, the ant is cozy in its nest with enough food, and the grasshopper is left with nothing in the cold, bitter cold out there. So, what is the moral here? The moral is you need to work daily. You need to work daily, and if you work daily, probably during exams, it will be how would you put it? It would be very easy for you. So each and every moral, you can connect it with yours. Next, Grimm's fairy tales. Have you read these fairy tales? Have you read it? This is Pinocchio. A carpenter, he makes, he has no children. So one day he makes a toy, a wooden toy, a small boy, and he wishes that it would become real. And God grants his wish, and the, he becomes a real human being at the end. I'm sorry. And then he tells him that if you tell a lie, your nose will start growing. That's the story of Pinocchio. And at the end, because of his good deeds, he becomes a human being. He becomes a true human being. Grimm's fairy tales. And this is Little Red Riding Hood. Have you read this? Little Red Riding Hood? And this is the Sleeping Beauty. Sleeping Beauty. Fairy tales. These are all fairy tales. And as the name suggests, Grimm's fairy tales, they actually don't have a happy ending. They are quite grim, the real ones. But then Disney adapted most of these, or in the abridged form, and the unabridged version is not pleasant. So they changed it to suit the children. Okay. See, when the child is young, you can't tell the child about the bad things that are happening in the world. You can't, because the child is very innocent, and the first things that you sow should be something really good. So they adapted Disney, and a lot many people, they changed the ending, and they just retained the outline. They made it happy. They made it fairy tales. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Have you read this? And Disney, these are all made into movies. These are adapted to screen. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and this is Jack and the Beanstalk. Cinderella, the evergreen story of Cinderella. And this is a part of the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And this is the queen, stepmother of Snow White. And this is the mirror. Okay, she has a magic mirror, and she was supposed to be very beautiful. Okay, the queen, Snow White's mother. The Snow White, she was named as Snow White because when the child was born, the child was so very beautiful, people named her Snow White. So this queen, she was the stepmother. When Snow White was young, her mother dies, and the king marries a second time, and the stepmother is very beautiful but very wicked, like as it is supposed to be in stories. So the queen had a magic mirror. She was supposed to be a witch, okay, and she used to always stand in the front of the mirror and ask, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And the mirror used to say, "You, my dear queen." And one day, when she asks this question, the mirror says, "You are the fairest of all, my dear queen." But then Snow White is going to be the fairest of all in a short time. That is when the queen orders someone to kill the child and bring a heart. But the person who was given this job takes pity on the child, and he leaves her in the forest. And when the child wakes up, what does that young princess see? She's in the forest, and she's scared, she cries. And that is when the seven dwarfs adopt her. So this is again the moral. These fairy tales, they have not just, they have layers of meaning. Okay, layers of meaning. That this, the literal meaning could be this, but the secondary or the tertiary meaning could be, good looking people need not be good. These are dwarfs. Dwarfs are deformed people. They are physically deformed, but they had a very good intention. They had a very good heart. They helped her. They started looking after her. So fairy tales, they give you the, if you really immerse yourself and if you partake the literature, like we had in the very beginning, the first or the second slide, you can really learn so many things. There are many multiple benefits here. You are reading a story, okay, you are enjoying it, you are learning something about the culture of those days, okay, plus you'll be imbibing some morals. You will be knowing what to do and what not to do. You can develop some very good qualities in you, and thereby you can become a better human being. Okay, next you have Arabian Nights. Now I'm just taking you to the different children's literature that we have. Each region has its own. See, in India, we had Panchatantra, we had Jataka tales, and you have Vikram Betal and so on. And if you went to in Europe, you had Grimm's, you had Hans Christian Andersen, and so on. And if you move to the African continents, you have Arabian Nights. Arabian Nights. I mean, the Middle East. I'm sorry, the Middle East. You have Arabian Nights. Have you read at least some Arabian Nights? Any book of these? But I'm sure you have. You must have watched some movies. You know, Aladdin and his magic lamp. Kya hukum hai mere aaka? You remember that? And I'm sure it was even made into teleserials. And this is Sinbad the Sailor. They have made multiple movies on different voyages of Sinbad in Hollywood. And this is the magic carpet. And this is Alibaba and Charlie's Joe. Have you seen the movie? It was made not once but thrice. Once in English and in Hindi, they adapted it twice. Alibaba or Charlie's Joe. And it takes you to a dreamland, doesn't it? Apart from apart from giving you insights into morals and people's behavior and their culture. Okay, these are some famous TV adaptations. What do you mean by adaptation? The moment you come across the word adaptation, it means it is taken from a book, a novel. Okay, it is taken from, it can be fairy tale, it can be a drama, it can be a book, historical, anything. So Ramayana, and we have three versions of Ramayana, if I am not wrong. The same with Mahabharata. First Ramanand Sagar came and they are airing it again. This was in 90s, okay? You were not even born then, 90s. When Ramanand Sagar first said that he's going to, serialize Ramayana, it was aired 1 hour in the morning on Sundays. You can ask your parents about that. They'll be knowing this. 9 to 10 in the morning, the streets were deserted. Everybody was glued to television. And in those days, we did not have many channels. You are a very fortunate generation now, actually. You can ask your parents about this. They can tell you a thing or two about this. And Mahabharata, teleserialized twice. Then Bible. Have you seen the serial version of Bible? Even movies. These are all made into movies. Different types of movies, from Love Kush to Ramayana to Ayodhya. There are different sections in Ramayana. So Mahabharata, Sri Krishna. This is Vikram Betal. The children used to wait for these serials to watch. And recent one is Bharat Ka, what is it? Bharat Ka Veer Putra, Maharana Pratap, a historical serial. How many of you have watched any of this or even one? I used to watch. To this day, I love watching historical serials. Of course, they keep telling that it is not an exact replica adaptation. They'll add some masalas for people. At the end of the day, they need to run the show, isn't it? So that's understandable. But then, if you can't read, at least you can. This is how people. Uh, this is how the great books, the classics of literature, are adapted on screen. Now let's move on to Hollywood. Famous adaptations. Gone with the Wind. It is based on a novel written by Margaret Mitchell. It's a runaway success. It's a very famous movie. Then Harry Potter. Harry Potter series. It's a recent advent. Harry Potter. Have you read Harry Potter? If not, have you watched a movie on Harry Potter? The different movies of Harry Potter. Why kids, even people of our age, these are all, there is no age for these classes. Anybody, a child of 10 years or an old lady of 80 can enjoy this book equally well. That's why they are known as classics. There is no age here. Age doesn't come into the picture when we are talking about classics and when we are talking about great books. The Time Machine. This is a science fiction written by H.G. Wells. Wonderful, wonderful. And these are made into movies. And Dracula. Dracula was written by Bram Stoker, and it spawned numerous versions of vampire movies. This was the original Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula. And the book is wonderful. No, it gives you an idea of Transylvania, the castles, the people, the culture. I cannot put it into words, okay? I don't have words to explain these great books of literature of all times. Now, famous adaptations in Hindi and Kannada. See, Alibaba and Charlie's Show, one probably in the 50s, Eastman color, and then one in the 80s, 70s or 80s. One, the hero is Sanjeev Kumar, and another is Dharmendra, Zinat Aman, and Emma Malini. So the same, so you can imagine how popular the book was. And Gadar, have you seen? This is a recent movie, Gadar, and it is based on the book written by Kushwant Singh, Train to Pakistan. Can you see the train? Train to Pakistan. That was the original book, and it was adapted from that. Okay, the Sunny Deol and I don't remember the name of the heroine. It is about partition literature. This is about partition literature. And Guide, R.K. Narayan's Malgudi Days was one of his famous creations. And Guide is a novel written by R.K. Narayan, which was made into a very hit movie with Devanand and Vaida Rehman. And in Kannada, you have Bayalu Dari. These are all books written by, I think Bayalu Dari is written by Bharati Sita and Kaniyamma by N.K. Indira. For that matter, you have Chemmin in Malayalam. I don't have much idea about Malayalam literature because I have read only Kamala Das and I have read Chemmin. That's in translation. Okay, so in almost every language, every state, whichever their literature, whichever their state language, they have their own corpus of literature. Okay, the moment we speak literature, it doesn't mean English. It's not just English. We have Kannada literature, you have Malayalam literature, you have Hindi, you have Oriya, you have Gujarati, you name it, we have it. And Kaniyamma, you should watch the movie. If possible, you read the book and then watch the movie. It changed the course of history for young Brahmin girls in the society. You will start weeping. You can't control yourself. That is it brings out a lot of pathos. Wonderful book and a wonderfully made movie. Now, famous Disney adaptations. Disneyland, I'm sure you have heard about Disneyland and Disney World and Mickey, the different varieties of cartoons. Have you read at least any of these cartoons? Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, Lady and the Tramp, Jungle Book. It was made into Hindi serial also, Jungle Book, Mowgli. I don't remember the tag, the jingle now. Jungle, Jungle, Ja Rahi hai, something like that. You know, Mowgli, Hindi. Then you have the Sleeping Beauty and so on. These were the Disney adaptations. You know something? When Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs came, okay, I went and watched the movie in theater. Even Jungle Book. So next time, if you come across something like these, just go and watch those movies. Wonderful experience. Okay, so here I have a slide with some classics for you. You can go through these classics in the abridged versions. Now, see, you need not buy, okay? These days, you need not buy. You can just download the Kindle app or Google Play app. You can download the Kindle or the Google Play app or even Aldico. There is an app known as Aldico. If you want, you can take down ALDICO, Aldico. You download the app. It's free on Google Play Store, and there you have lots of all these books for free, and the reading experience is wonderful. You can read the abridged versions. What do you mean by abridged versions? Simplified versions which are meant for children. White Fang, Jack London, he has huge number of collections, and this is about a white husky dog. You know what a husky dog is? Huskies are used to draw the sledges in the Arctic and the Antarctic regions. It's about the white dog, and Moby Dick is about a dolphin, a whale. I'm sorry, a whale. And Black Beauty is about Moby Dick is written by Herman Melville, and Black Beauty is written by Anna Sewells. It's not about a girl. It's about a horse, and it gives you an insight of how was the life of these animals back in 1800 when before the advent of motor cars, they used to ride in horse-drawn buggies and carriages. So instead of having cars and bikes, they had horses in their tables. The very rich people, and it tells you the stories from the viewpoint of the horse. Please read it. It's wonderful. I have no words. I can't explain. Like I'm repeating myself. I can't explain the beauty of these books, these evergreen classics. And this is just a small list that I have brought here. And next you have Charles Dickens's Christmas Carol. This is the time of Christmas. Please read it. You can get it free. Like I told you, download the app. The books are for free. Then Sherlock Holmes, Arthur Conan Doyle is famous. Many movies and serials, even Hollywood, are made in this. Treasure Island, Robinson Crusoe, Treasure Island, Robert Louis Stevenson, Treasure Island, Gulliver's Travels, Robinson Crusoe, all was written by him. Wonderful books made into movies. Time Machine, H.G. Wells, science fiction. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, science fiction. Now, this was all written, they imagined and wrote. This was written in 1800, and now in modern science, we have developed submarines, okay, which can go down and plunder the depths of the sea. Next, you have Pollyanna, a wonderful book on morals. It's about the girl's name is Pollyanna. Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys, these are for a higher level, 13, 14 years probably. Mysteries. Okay, Nancy Drew mysteries and Hardy Boy mysteries. You have even Enid Blyton and her mystery, which is written for children. It's wonderful reading those things. If you have read, well and good. If not, you can always start now. It's never late to learn and on these things. And before I go, I would like to tell you something. See, we think that literature is not for the people with science background, isn't it? Don't you? I'm sure 99% think like that. Oh, literature, who reads all those? We are from the science background. But what if I told you are very wrong? See, I am from NITK. Okay, I did my PhD from NITK Suratkar, and I'm sure for engineering students, NITK is a mecca. At least something like it. Second tier to IITs, isn't it? Indian institutes. And there we have a group. We have a group which is known as NITK Book Lovers. Did you know that? So, if you read, it is not for only arts students. Anyone and everyone can read and upgrade yourselves. Okay? So, if you wait for the time, it never comes. You'll end up waiting for the end, till the end, and you'll be missing some huge chunk of some of the greatest imaginative books or some of the greatest morals of all time, and you'll be missing on a chunk of a miraculous chunk of life, chunk of that the life is offering. That's all I can say. There is a huge, say, Black Forest cake. I'm offering you a pie, a piece of it, and you don't want it. You're saying you'll eat it tomorrow or some other day. That's never going to happen. If you want to do something, you should do it now. And who is this person? Sudha Murthy, the chairperson of Infosys Foundation, isn't it? And I call her the modern Mahatma. I call Sudha Murthy the modern Mahatma. The reason is, such a great personality, she could have rolled in diamonds. She could have jet setted. No, but she thought of helping the poor. She's a philanthropist. Plus, she's a writer. Have you read any of Sudha Murthy's books? I would advise you to read or request you to read her Wise and Otherwise. It's not it's non-fiction. That is, they are all real life stories. Okay, real life stories, and it's about her life experience, anecdotes from her life. And when you read some, you will start crying. She has that magic of explaining things in very simple words. Very simple. I have read all, but I love her Wise and Otherwise and Old Man and the God. She says the real India is not with educated people. She says the real India doesn't reside or doesn't live in the metros or the big cities. She says the real India, the spirit of real India, is still alive and can be seen only in villages. Can you believe this? Read her books if you want to. So, what does Jhumpa Lahiri say? She's an Indian writer based in the US. She says you can, without moving from your seat, without moving your feet, you can travel around the world. And how can you do that? With a good book. Okay, with a good book, you can travel around the world. So thanks for listening. Any questions? Any questions? So, for if you are still listening, if you are really listening, you can download the app and the reading experience is just great. All these books and much more are free for you to download. Okay. Thank you so much. Hope you will start reading at least some. Thank you.